Hey, welcome back to the Brew channel. I'm Mike, and today I'm going to be taking you through a 5-gallon American wheat for Northern Brewer. And we're going to be using our new Anvil system, so sit back and relax and we'll show you how it's done. Alright, so for this brew, we're going to be using 4 pounds of white wheat malt, and we'll also be using 4 pounds of 2-row. We have 1 ounce of Cascade hops. We also have an ounce of Willamette hops. And then finally, we have our dry ale yeast. So what you're going to need is a fermenter, an airlock, your hop spider, a measuring container, a stock pot for your strike water, your Wort Chiller, a mixing spoon, some sanitizer, a spray bottle for easy sanitation, some Irish moss, and a thermometer. You'll also need the Anvil system that we'll be using, and then we also have a circulation system. Alright, so what we're going to do next is we're going to get our strike water up to temperature. So first take a 5.5 gallons, toss it in, and next what you're going to want to do is we're going to set this to 158 degrees Fahrenheit and set the power up to 100. Now I did this a little bit before, so we're at temperature now, but this took probably around an hour to get to that temperature with 120 volts. All right, so for the next step, we're going to start the mashing. So starting off, we're going to pour a little bit of the grain at a time and stir. We want to make sure that we're not getting clumps. And what you're going to notice is the temperature is going to lower to about 152. So we're going to get ready for the pre-circulation. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn the temperature down to 152. And then we're going to drop the power down to 50%. And then last but not least, we're going to just let these grains steep for about 10 minutes. All right, so we're going to start the recirculation. So the first thing you're going to want to do is start off with a quick stir. And then you're going to want to make sure that this is running between 50% and 80% because you don't want your fan to be constantly running. So we'll throw our lid on. We'll throw this. And I tighten the tubing up a little bit because we don't want this to overflow. So let's start with that. Oh, we also need this. So as you can see, this is flowing into here. Let's take a look. Yep, so that's a little too fast, so we're going to tighten this up to have a smaller flow. There we go. So we're going to mash for about an hour, and then we're going to be stirring for about every 15 minutes. So as you're doing that, make sure you're only going about a third way down as you're stirring. And then the last thing you want to do, 30 minutes in, kind of lift up the malt pipe and just get some of that going back down and then throw it back in. So when you're 40 minutes in, you should really start prepping your sparge water. And for this, we're going to use 1 gallon. All right, so we're going to get ready for the mash up. So the first thing we want to do, we're going to turn our temperature up to 170. And then we're going to turn our power to 100%. Oh, that's what a couple of beers do. And now we're going to let this sit for 10 minutes. And essentially what this is going to do, it's going to loosen up the sugar from the grains. So as we're doing the sparge, it's going to allow that sugar to get rinsed out a lot easier. So now we're getting ready for the sparge. So first thing first, we're going to turn off the power to the unit. Next, we're going to go ahead and raise the malt pipe. Now this may be hot, so if yours is burning hot, just make sure that you have something to lift it with. So we do have our sparge water, which we got to 170 degrees. We have a gallon in there. All right, so now that your malt pipe has pretty much drained out, we're going to take our sparge and we're going to start pouring it in slowly. Now, as you can see on top, we have all these small little holes, so it's going to distribute out pretty evenly. And what essentially, I'll just recap what I said before. This is just going to rinse out any of the extra sugars that are left in the grain. All right, so before we get this up to the boil point, I just want to say that the extra wort that was drained into our kettle, we already poured in. So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn the temperature up to the boil point. So let's just, there we go. Once it gets to the boiling point, we're going to let it boil for an hour. And at the 45-minute mark, we're going to add in our Wort Chiller so that we can sanitize it. So once we get to the boil point, we're going to add our first hop addition, which is the Willamette. So when there's 15 minutes left at the end of the boil, we're going to add our Cascade hops and we're going to add our Irish moss. So now that our wort has boiled for an hour, we turn on our Wort Chiller and we're going to bring this down between 60 to 70 degrees. So when we pitch the yeast, we're not going to kill it. All right, so we're ready to pitch the yeast. So first off, we're going to open the valve. We're going to let the wort go into our fermenter. And as that's going, we're going to cut the yeast packet open after we sanitize the scissors and the packet. We're going to pour this in. And then we're going to grab our lid and we're going to shake this up for about a minute. We're going to aerate the wort, which is pretty much going to allow the yeast to multiply, which pretty much at a high level, that once it multiplies, it's going to eat up the extra sugar and it's going to convert it into alcohol. All right, so we just added our airlock and this is going to sit in a cool, dark place for about 2 weeks. After that's done, we're going to start the bottling process. And once you do that, it's going to sit for about another 2 weeks and then your beer's ready to go. So thank you for sitting and watching us. I know this might have been a little rough because this is our first time really working with the Anvil and doing a full grain beer. So go ahead and give us some feedback. Tell us what we did wrong. Tell us what we did right. And don't forget to like and subscribe. But either way, we'll see you next time. Peace. Video hot, marker.